much. So I'm here with Dr. Tina Peterson, who is the director of the Harris County Flood Control District, as well as with Lieutenant James Cabrera and Deputy Brad Simmons, who are going to be our pilots. I want to first thank the first responders. We visited with some of them yesterday in some of the affected neighborhoods, the past couple of days, and of course we have the leadership at our Emergency Operations Center, and they're really working day and night, doing an incredible job. So I want to thank them. I was out there yesterday in Idle Glen, Idlewild area, which is west of the East Fork of the San Jacinto River, as well as Magnolia Point, the Commons at Lake Houston, on the other side of the East Fork. Unfortunately, what we saw was basically what we predicted, which was a lot of flooding down there. When Jeff Linder shared that there might be flooding all the way up to the power lines, I know to trust him at this point, but I had a hard time picturing that. I will say around Idle Glen, Idlewood area, that's exactly what was happening. So it was very severe, thankfully not more severe than we thought it would be. Lots of rescues and lots of different agencies working together. So not just the Huffman folks, folks from all over the county and beyond. I want to thank the residents as well for listening to the advice and taking appropriate action. To my understanding, there have been no confirmed deaths related to the incident. Haven't heard about any serious injuries. And I'm grateful for the number of people that actually left. We chatted with some folks that said, that they heard about it, they left, and also the first responders said some of the time they rescued fewer people than they thought they were going to have to because a lot of people were gone. Of course, the meteorologists who've helped us get as ahead of this as we possibly could. On what's going to go on next. The good news is right now, it obviously looks like a nice day. We don't expect other issues today with rainfall, but I want to be very clear that we're not out of the woods yet, and that level of uncertainty remains. The East Fork crested already. That's also good news. So the areas we visited yesterday crested 77.8 feet above sea level. That's where the river was. Again, normally it's around 45 to 50, and it has receded a few feet since this morning. I did see out there a lot of families that were still leaving. Unfortunately, some livestock out there that we were trying to help. We are trying to help with now. The bad news is there's still major flooding, so those areas continue to be flooded. Even if it's less, it's severe enough that we classify it still in the flooding and major flooding category. We will continue to see those significant impacts going into Sunday. On the West Fork, this is also not the best news. The West Fork, water is still rising. So that is Kingwood along the east and west fork of the San Jacinto River, as well as Bellawood, Forest Cove, Kings Point, etc. They will rise, the water there will rise another 1 to 2 feet around 10 to 11 o'clock midnight tonight. So those neighborhoods need to brace for more water obviously coming their way, but it's not going to be, as we've said before, it's not going to be to the level of their neighbors a little bit north of them. Rio Villa south of Lake Houston is now cut off, as well as other areas around there. And so here is the most concerning part, which could be nothing, but it could turn into something, is we are expecting more rain. Hopefully another 1 to 3 inches won't do much tonight after midnight into tomorrow, but we don't feel comfortable lifting the evacuation orders tonight because maybe people would leave and then rain ends up falling north of us again, and there ends up being a significant amount, and that's certainly possible, and then we flood back to the peak all over again. So that's still a possibility. We hope it's not the case. It's not a likely possibility, but as we have all seen, this incident has been very unpredictable. So if we get 1 to 3 inches, we'd be fine. If we get 4, 5, 6, might be okay, but if the rain slows down, if the weather pattern slows down, it keeps forming over and over again, kind of like what has been happening, then we'll be in trouble. At this point, if you're still in your home, prepare to stay there through the weekend. Obviously, it's too late to evacuate without calling 911. We definitely advise folks not to get into high water because there's all kinds of materials in there. Yesterday we were there were snakes, there were rats, there were spiders that we could just see with our eyes from the vehicle in the water, and you don't know what's in the bottom. The water came down very fast, moving debris, moving sediment, and there could be bacteria, chemicals from stranded cars, hazardous waste. Especially if kids go in the water, it could be fast moving. There was a couple yesterday trying to go see their homes despite our warnings, and at one point the gentleman had to really hold on to his partner because she was being pulled away by the current. And so please, I know that folks want to go and check on their homes, but this is just not the time right now. If there's still water and you can't see what's in there, it's just unnecessarily dangerous. If you need to get to a safe location, as always, call 911. Never drive into high water. If animals need to be rescued, we did see some livestock yesterday that was stranded. Call 911 as well and ask to be connected with the Texas AgriLife or Sheriff's Office Animal Division. So in theory, they will be able to help, is the conversations we've had this morning after seeing the animals out there yesterday. In terms of rescues, it really tapered off this morning. Overnight, it was a heavy amount of people. So yesterday morning, we had around 30 rescues. At this point, we're at 178 people. 178 people rescued throughout the county, 122 pets. In terms of shelters, they remain open. Philippians New Faith Missionary Baptist only saw one client and a couple pets. Greenhouse International Church did not see any, but Calvary Baptist Church had 54 clients and no pets last night. Remember, those remain open and they all accept pets. So if you don't have somewhere to go, you can make your way there or call 911 and ask that they take you there. If you're being evacuated, obviously. What we're doing, we're still activated at level 1, maximum readiness, but we are anticipating moving down to level 3 tomorrow afternoon, depending on what happens with those weather patterns that are beginning to form. If it doesn't end up being a big issue, that's when we're going to begin daylight operations for damage assessment, for restoration, getting folks back into their homes safely. But we still have operations going on to help people. Part of the reason we were out there, really the main reason we were out there yesterday, was to see the extent of the damage alongside the county administrator and the director of the Community Services Department. And by seeing the extent of the damage, we can better plan for recovery. We know people are hurting. We spoke with folks from all kinds of backgrounds that have now lost their homes, and we can't solve everything, but we want to be as well positioned to help them as we can. Finally, why are we here today? I'm going up in this helicopter with Dr. Peterson. As I mentioned, she's the director of our Harris County Flood Control District, and we're going to get an aerial view of the areas that have been most affected along the East and West Fork. We'll take a look at Lake Houston, and our goal is again to assess the extent of the damage. We want to see the magnitude of the impacts so we can plan for recovery, and also just to see how our infrastructure fared. So let me just repeat briefly in Spanish and then we'll answer questions, and Dr. Peterson's happy to answer questions as well. Quiero darle las gracias primero a los socorristas que nos ayudaron, nos continúan ayudando. Ayer estuve en los vecindarios de Idle Glen, Idlewood, así como Magnolia Point y otros vecindarios en el área, al lado este y oeste del brazo este del río San Jacinto. También, vimos mucha inundación, mucha agua. Y la verdad me sorprendió ver lo que el meteorólogo nos había dicho iba a suceder, y era que el agua iba a poder llegar hasta las líneas eléctricas. La verdad, pues obvio yo lo entendí, pero fue otra cosa verlo. En el área de Idlewild, Idle Glen, efectivamente el agua estaba básicamente sobre las líneas eléctricas, lo cual pues les explica a uno la profundidad de esa agua. Quiero agradecerle a los residentes también por escucharnos. Hablamos con familias ayer que dijeron que vieron nuestro mensaje y por eso salieron, y así se ahorraron el trauma, el posible peligro de tener que salir con sus niños, con sus mascotas en medio de toda esa agua. Entonces los socorristas también me dijeron que habían trabajado y se habían dado cuenta que más gente salió de lo que esperaban. Entonces muchas gracias por eso, y obviamente los meteorólogos, porque al fin y al cabo las predicciones han salido como se esperaba en esta última ola de agua. Buenas noticias, es un día bonito, no esperamos más problemas el día de hoy, pero todavía seguimos en riesgo. El brazo este del río San Jacinto llegó ya al nivel máximo, 77.8 pies el día de ayer. Normalmente el río, 77.8 pies sobre el nivel del mar. Normalmente el río está a 45, 50 pies sobre el nivel del mar. Y ya ha bajado un par de pies esta mañana. Las malas noticias, todavía están muy inundadas esas áreas, van a seguir inundadas hasta el domingo mínimo. El brazo oeste del río San Jacinto todavía está viendo que el agua sube, aún no ha llegado al nivel máximo. Entonces los vecindarios impactados son Kingwood a lo largo del río San Jacinto, Kings Point, Forest Cove, Bellowwood, esas áreas. Va a subir el agua por ahí 1 a 2 pies alrededor de la medianoche. Rio Villa al sur de Lake Houston ya no tiene entrada ni salida, y va a haber más inundaciones también. En estas últimas áreas, en el brazo oeste, en Rio Villa, la inundación no va a ser tan profunda, ¿ok? Sí puede que impacte las estructuras, pero no va a ser tan profunda. Lo más preocupante, de pronto, que pueda ser más preocupante, es que estamos viendo que puede haber más lluvia empezando esta noche, la madrugada y hacia mañana. Puede que sea 1 a 3 pulgadas de lluvia, lo cual estaría bien, nada se empeora, pero puede que caiga más lluvia al norte nuestro y nuevamente llegue una ola de inundación a los mismos vecindarios que se han visto afectados. La probabilidad es relativamente baja, pero existe, es significativa. Entonces estamos mirando eso, y por eso no estoy levantando aún la orden de evacuación, aunque sí estamos trabajando en el documento para tenerlo listo. Entonces, las últimas recomendaciones: si necesita rescate, nuevamente llame al 911, pero lo que más les pido es que no entren a esas aguas profundas. ¿Por qué? Bueno, primero, y yo entiendo que hay muchas personas que quieren ver cómo está la casa y tal, pero esto es lo que pasa. Número 1, puede estar dañada la infraestructura. Entonces, aunque usted vaya en un vehículo, esa infraestructura usted no sabe qué ha sucedido con las calles, pueden haber problemas, puede haber colapsado. Número 2, el agua puede tener bacteria, puede tener materiales fuertes. Ayer vimos palos, vimos plástico, de todo que ha salido de las casas. Puede haber químicos de los carros que se han inundado, inclusive animales. Ayer que estuvimos por allá vimos arañas enormes, vimos ratas en el agua, inclusive una culebra más larga de esto. O sea, esa culebra, de verdad que de las más largas que he visto en mi vida, en el agua. Entonces ese es el peligro de entrar ahí, sea con un pequeño vehículo o sea simplemente usted. Lo otro que vimos ayer fue una pareja que quería ir a ver la casa, les llegaba el agua como por aquí, y aunque les sugerimos no seguir, continuaron, y se veía que la mujer se está viendo impactada por la corriente. Entonces el señor tuvo que agarrarla para que no se la llevara el agua. Eso también ténganlo en mente, los niños, las mascotas. Los rescates ya son menos. Ayer estábamos como a 30, durante la noche subieron, ya han sido rescatadas 178 personas y 122 mascotas. Hay entonces los 3 refugios todavía abiertos. De esos es el Philippines New Faith Missionary Baptist Church, Calvary Baptist Church y Greenhouse International Church. Entonces, si necesitan ayuda, pueden llegar allá. En Calvary Baptist Church hubieron 54 clientes y ninguna mascota esta noche. Lo otro que les quiero decir que sí vimos ayer igual fue animales, vacas, caballos. Entonces, si necesita ayuda para esos animales, también puede llamar a 911 y los conectarán con la oficina Texas AgriLife o la división animal del departamento del alguacil, para que usted no se ponga en peligro y no se preocupe por esos animales más grandes que de repente no haya podido sacar. Estamos todavía activados a nivel 1, al nivel máximo, pero estamos anticipando que mañana vamos a bajar ya a nivel 3, pues dependiendo de que siempre y cuando no caiga mucha lluvia esta noche. Ya ahí vamos a la fase de restauración, la fase de recuperación y la fase de evaluar cuáles han sido los daños. Por eso también salimos ayer con la administradora del condado, con la directora de servicios comunitarios, y hoy día vamos en este helicóptero con la directora del departamento de control de inundaciones para evaluar la magnitud del daño. Queremos ver la magnitud de los impactos de este desastre para planear mejor la recuperación y también ver qué tal le fue a nuestra infraestructura. So I'll leave it there and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Why has this event been so tricky to anticipate? What's been different about this one?
Yeah, you know, at least for where we've landed now is you basically know what the weather's going to be within just a few hours. And it's because, normally when we have this kind of weather, the meteorologist, Mr. Linder, is able to show me the weather bands and where they're coming from and where they're going. This time, they don't form in a very concrete way. It's more amorphous. They form in this band and come together again. And so that makes it really unpredictable and very difficult for them to figure out what's actually going to happen. And that's also why I'm impressed and grateful that the team was able to at least, very importantly, figure out that there was going to be very, very heavy flooding in the areas where we ordered evacuations and requested that folks take precautions. And I think that's partly why, and hopefully it'll continue this way, we've seen no deaths and no serious injuries. So I think the biggest uncertainty was sort of before we knew of those levels, and then now going forward with the rain that's coming up, and it's just that pattern that's not very clear.
Genevieve has seen some new evacuations along Crosby. Is this a new trouble spot, or have you guys been able to get to that area yet? Or?
You know, it's about the water that's going to be coming down south. And so those areas should have hit the peak already for now. The concern is, if something else comes down, it could make it just as bad or even worse than it already was. So we'll see. We'll definitely keep people updated, but we won't know until probably later tonight, maybe even tomorrow, depending on when the rain pattern actually forms. Do you know anything about it? No, I know there's been several helicopters. I know that, whether it's media, whether these folks were also going up and down and surveying the damage before we got here. So there's a lot of different activities. I saw a lot of Good Samaritans out there yesterday as well, volunteers that usually participate when they're needed for rescues. Thankfully, we didn't need to call on private assets in this time, which is great, but folks were there helping the departments. It's hard. In conversations with residents yesterday, the ones that stayed, and we did see some families. There was one sort of off-road vehicle type thing with many, many kids packed in there. They were trying to make their way through the water, and I mean, it was a close call there. And so we're asking these different folks, you know, why did you end up staying? And what we heard from them, or from the neighbors that did leave but whose neighbors didn't leave, is the blue skies were just so they were just so tricky, and it was hard to believe that it was actually going to be that bad when the skies were so beautiful. And that's what is particularly difficult about something with river flooding, because we were basically sitting ducks. We knew that the river was coming. We issued the emergency alerts to people's phones. We were in as much media as we could be. The news stations helped us with that, of course, radio. But at some point, like I said, even I had a hard time believing we were actually going to hit the power lines, and indeed we did. So the silver lining, so to speak, of it being river flooding is that we can see it coming. Folks will recall a couple days ago when a storm moved through the county, and those streets flooded really quickly. Thankfully, it wasn't so much that the flooding remained, but that's something from rain can really change things on a dime. The river, we could see it coming, we could warn people, and at that point, it's just I think it's human nature to see it. People don't want to leave their homes if they don't have to. But I'm glad that a lot of people did heed the advice.
For clarity on the perspective of the power lines, do you know about like how high in the air or the depth of that water, or
I don't know, but what I will say, and I saw this, myself, is probably the power line is here and the water was about here. And so, that was very close to the East Fork of the San Jacinto River, around the Idlewild, Idle Glen area, and there was water in several areas. By the rooftops, there was, large truck in the water, cars in the water, just really severe stuff. Not as bad as Harvey, but pretty much there. I think that area, and talking to the neighbors, probably going to be the second worst flood they've faced, and the worst one since Harvey. Yeah, well, we're trying to look at our infrastructure. I mean, we've always known, we've talked about many times that there needs to be more work. The flood bond was never enough money, as we realized as soon as we got there. And so, what other initiatives do we need to establish? So that's part of the question. The human side of it is you obviously see the destruction. And so from a leadership standpoint, it helps us better determine how to help with recovery, where to set our disaster recovery centers, what kind of resources folks may need. Those were some of the questions that we asked everybody we talked to yesterday. But it is very sad to see. These are livelihoods that people have built. These are roads. It is infrastructure that the community has paid for, that folks have worked on. And so the question is, how do we help folks rebuild? We can't do everything. It's not possible, but what can we do to help? And then how can we help our county be more resilient?
is this at a level where you can try to seek federal aid or state aid?
So it's not probably going to be at the level of FEMA disaster assistance, where it's the grants that people get to fix up their homes, or whatever it is that they need. We're not going to probably get to that level. What the level we are probably going to get to is the Small Business Administration loans, and those are very, very low interest loans. Folks might remember after, it's not Imelda, but anyway, one of the floods that took place a couple of years ago, we had to wait like 2 months for folks to receive the Small Business Administration aid. So we have now, in the intervening time, we've worked with our partners to solve that issue. So that should be fast this time. But we have to send an official count and assessment. have to send an official assessment to the federal government before we get any of that, and that's why as soon as those waters recede and we can send in our vehicles to evaluate, to do windshield assessments, that is when really the process of recovery will start. We'll have the count, we'll combine that with the region, send it over to the federal government, and I would expect that folks will have access to those loans, and then we'll see what other resources we can coordinate for residents. Thank you guys. I better get on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you guys